Part 1. Letter from an Esseer, or brother of the Essenes, who was in Essene, in Jerusalem to his brethren in Alexandria. Peace be with you, dear brethren. You have heard of the things that have happened in Jerusalem and Palestine. In general, you were right to believe Jesus to be our brother and a member of our order, of whom his friends among the Romans and Jewish people relate, that he taught and wrought great wonders, performed great wonders, and finally suffered the death of martyrs in Jerusalem. He was born in Nazareth, in the ancient, the original ancient, very old Aramaic New Testament, translated by native-born Aramaic speaking translator, filmmaker, etc. Victor N. Alexander from Betnarain or Mesopotamia, Syria. Actually translated in the footnotes. I can't remember what the word was in the Aramaic, but it translates as victorious. Okay. So he was, because he would be victorious over the devil, over sin, etc. And all he did. Okay. So you're right to believe Jesus to be our brother and a member of our order. Actually, the name's on a game that we played. It's a war game. Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it is. Hang on, there was a woman next to us. She had the same name. Oh my gosh. Let's have a look. Over here. Let's have a look. It's in Matthew, I'm pretty sure. What is it? What verse is it? Matthew 1 or 2? Let's have a look here. Okay, here we go. In the Aramaic New Testament, translated by Victor N. Alexander, it has a footnote. Okay, here's the verse. Matthew 2:23. And he, Jesus, came and lived in a town called Nazareth, so that what the prophets had said, it'll be probably in the book of Isaiah or the Old Testament somewhere, came to be fulfilled, that victorious he shall be called. Footnotes 2:23 in Aramaic. That's the ancient, that's the original ancient, very old Aramaic, not a modified or modern version that most won't use today. In Aramaic, pronounced Nusrat, meaning the victorious, or of the town of Nazareth. That's N-U-S-S-R-A-T, Nusrat. Yeah, we played a war game one time, and it was like a Russian town or something, or city, called Nusrat. But yeah, this is Nazareth in the original ancient Galilean Aramaic. Okay, so he was born in Nazareth by the entrance to the beautiful valley into which the river Kishon rushes down the steep declivities of the Mount Tabor. He was put under the protection of the order by a member of our Brotherhood, by whom his father and mother found a refuge on their flight to Egypt. There are, as you know, many of our brethren living on the borders of Egypt. In fine, Jesus was admitted into the order, so he may have been in a scene at the same time with John in their years of early manhood. He lived then in Galilee and had just returned from a visit to Jerusalem, where he was watched by our Brotherhood. Jutha was the place of his initiation, close by the grand castle of Masada, maybe that's Masada, Herod's Masada, that big castle he made, where the mountains raised their lofty peaks above the surrounding country of Israel and Jerusalem. My dear brethren, you may all have been convinced that he has been a member of our order, as well by the doctrines he has taught the people and his signs of recognition, especially the baptism and the breaking of the bread and passing of the wine, as well as by his being baptized by one of our brethren, John, who that reckon was also in the scene, in Jordan, near the shore of the Dead Sea, in a westerly direction. For baptism, as you know, has been since time immemorial a sacred institution in our order, so they had to face westward, a westerly direction. That's interesting. You wonder that the belief in the supernatural and miracle should gain foothold in our midst, when you know that we all have to bear the responsibility for the actions of one of our members. Therefore you ought to know that the rumour is like a wind. When it commences, it drives the pure air far ahead, but in its progress it receives all vapours and mist from the earth. And when it has travelled some distance, it creates darkness instead of the clear pure air of which it was at first composed, and at last consists solely of the particles it has received during its progress. It is even so with the rumours concerning Jesus and his fate. Furthermore, remember that the inspired men who have written and spoken of him were often carried away by the spirit of enthusiasm, and in their devotion and simplicity they believed all the things told them about him by the multitudes who were even more simple-minded and superstitious than they. Bear ever in mind also that in accordance with our rules, the secrets of our holy brotherhood at all times remained unknown to these writers, and that only our higher members had any knowledge about the secret assistance and protection Jesus received from us. So in that sense that would be gnosis, possibly. And finally, do not forget that our rigid laws prohibited us from interfering or taking any active part in the councils or plans of the rulers of the land, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, etc., or even the Romans. Therefore we have acted quietly and secretly and have suffered the law to run its course. At the same time we secretly aided and assisted our friend in ways which did not infringe the law and our rules. Know then that Jesus was and is our brother, and himself vowed, when he at Jutha was made an initiate of our order, that our brotherhood thenceforth should be to him as father and mother, and truly we have proved us so in the spirit and the letter of our law. And the author states, I write this to you, my brethren, in the truth and knowledge of our brotherhood, that you may know and understand the truth concerning what has come to pass. I tell you only of the things I know, and I have seen it all with mine own eyes, and have taken a deep interest and an active part in all these transactions. Now, at the time that I write this to you, the Jews have 7 times eaten of the lamb of the Passover, since our brother was crucified, a brother whom we all loved, and in whom God was glorified. Nevertheless, I have forgotten none of the things I have lived to see come to pass. Indeed, as true as are the words that pass from my lips, of his lips, and the thoughts that he wrote, as verily he does believe from the depths of his soul that Jesus was chosen of God and begotten by the eternal Spirit. He called himself the Son of God, and he proved himself to us, those around him, by teaching in the name of God. He also lived a holy life and was deeply learned in the secrets of all the kingdoms of nature. In all these things we of the secret brotherhood acknowledge God, and the man among us who can say, Behold, I am of God. Look, take notice, I am of God. Verily he is so, for he that is not cannot say it, not having the word in his heart or in his mind, because in that language, Eastern language, heart's just a muscle, it doesn't think for itself, so it actually means mind in the Hebrew, and not having learned it from the Spirit. I will now tell you of the parentage of this man who loved all men, and for whom we feel the highest esteem, that you may have full knowledge of him. He was from his infancy brought up for our brotherhood. Indeed, he was predicted by an Esseer, whom the woman thought to be an angel. So some brotherhood practicing Essene, right? Whom the woman thought to be an angel. This woman was given to many imaginings, delving into the supernatural and into the mysteries of life, and she found deep interest and pleasure in the things she could not explain. Our brother, the Esseer, has acknowledged to us his part in these things, and has persuaded the brotherhood secretly to search for and protect the child. So were the is he talking about the wise men, the 3 wise men? Were they part of this brotherhood, or was he talking about somebody else that came later, or as he grew, right? And Joseph, who was a man of great experience in life and deep devotion to the immortal truth, through a messenger of our order. So these angels, when you translate it from the Hebrew into the English, it actually could be a holy angel, or it could be a messenger with a message. Through a messenger of our order was influenced not to leave the woman or to disturb her faith in the sacredness of her experience, and to be a father to the child unto our brotherhood should admit him as a novice. Thus, during the flight to Egypt, Joseph was secretly protected and guided by our order, and conducted as a guest to the congregated brotherhood by the Mount Cassius, at the slope of the mount on which the Romans had built a temple dedicated to Jupiter, pagan god, right? The planet. The Esseers who lived there were commissioned to introduce Joseph, his wife, and the child into the congregation, that they might see our way of worshipping and praising God, the Creator of all, and learn the ceremony of eating the consecrated bread and drinking the holy wine. At their request, they informed the brotherhood in Jerusalem how it all had been done. Joseph was placed among the half circle of men on the right hand, and Mary his wife among the women on the left hand. There they, with our brethren, ate the bread and drank the wine, and altogether sang the holy hymns. Further, Joseph here vowed before the elder of their brotherhood, that he renounced forever any claim on the child who was thenceforth to belong to the order. He was then made acquainted with the salutation and sign of the Holy Brotherhood, which would enable him during his travels to make himself known to these. They also directed him which route to take to arrive in safety. This route was through a part of the country where there lived many enlightened and learned Jews who were well versed in the scriptures and devoted to study. Among these, the order had many members. These were ordered to protect Joseph and be hospitable to him, with robbers on the way, vagabonds, even before he arrived among them. This was in the beautiful country of Heliopolis, with its splendid forest, and near unto the temple of Jehovah, erected by Onias. When the peril in Galilee was over, and the Roman wars was pillaging in Judea, making that country unsafe, Joseph went to Nazareth, which is situated nearby the steep mount of Tabor. But soon Archelaus brought new terror over Galilee, that's one of Herod's sons, and Joseph was persuaded by the brethren to go to Jerusalem on his way passing Luhim, and there seek protection by their brotherhood. This was duly accomplished, and at Passover they arrived at Nisan. It's a name in the month, the Hebrew Jewish month, right? Here, this particular writer of this letter himself spoke with him. He was then in the lower degree of the order, and in obedience to the command of the elder carried a message to Joseph. He found him to be a man of candour and wide experience. He spoke with great judgment and wisdom. Indeed, he exhorted Mary to describe distinctly the differences between reality and dreamy imagination, things as different as the day is from the night, and instructed her how to quiet her mind through prayer and devotion. We're seeking that sort of thing. Yeah, her mind was filled with fiery imaginations or imaginings that often lifted her thoughts up to heavenly things and made her indifferent to the things of the earth. In consequence, she strongly influenced the mind of her son to the study and contemplation of immortal truths. Joseph commended her for her good influence over the child. He also instructed Jesus in knowledge and wisdom, and protected his pure mind against the power of overstrained imagination. And when the child Jesus spoke with the scribes concerning holy things, his doctrines gave deep offence to the Pharisees in Jerusalem, in that they considered them dangerous and incredible. What about the part where he spoke to these Jews, these Pharisees or whatever, and these elders, and they were quite impressed that he knew all of this better than anyone else, right? What happened there? Yeah, and when the child Jesus spoke with the scribes concerning holy things, his doctrines gave deep offence to the Pharisees in Jerusalem, and that they considered them dangerous and incredible. Well, this one twist on it, because the other one said they were amazed that this child knew so much. How could a child know so much? Who was his teacher? Inasmuch as the Pharisees held rigidly to the traditions and details of the law of Moses, they were deeply aggrieved against everyone who did not believe with them, and who did not keep in outward form to the ceremonials of their temple service. They gave alms in the sight of the multitudes, but they always give charitably. Yeah. Hey, look, we're doing charitable things. Hey, pay attention. No. They gave alms in the sight of the multitudes. They taught of the kingdom of the dead, of the influence of good angels and evil spirits, and of the future grand eternal destiny of the Jewish people. Although they had many friends among the common people, and exercised great power and influence with them. Nevertheless, the Spirit of God dwelt neither in their houses nor in their tongues. But Joseph had come to be of the Brotherhood's doctrines, Essene doctrines, and without figures or mysteries he fixed them in the mind of the growing child. Indeed, the child thus early was touched by the miseries of the people, and they were enraptured to hear him teach the word of God. The scribes knew him to be from Galilee, and they despised him as they despised the whole people of Galilee. He was Galilean, right? But some of the brethren went to the temple, and without betraying themselves through the holy salutation, kept him in their midst, that they might thus protect him. When the divine child had spoken publicly in the temple, then were the brothers apprehensive of the dangers that threatened him. So that's why he quickly disappeared in the crowd, etc., etc. For they knew that the Pharisees and the rabbis were in private council, fully determined to banish him from Galilee because of his doctrines. They therefore lured him to the synagogue of Sophorim by manifesting to him an assumed interest in the law, for they perceived that in all his ardour and enthusiasm he was influenced by nothing else. Thus it came to pass that he was lost from his father and mother in the large city, which then contained many people from the whole country, because of the Passover. Their friends, this guy's friends, the Esseers, were informed of these things, and they saw that it was not safe nor wise for the child to remain longer among the Pharisees, as much more as a rabbi who had become a true friend and teacher to the child no more could be present to moderate his zeal and ardour, contending as he was with the immoral hypocrites, as the rabbi had gone on a journey to Jericho. Therefore, these people informed Joseph, the Brotherhood informed Joseph and his wife, whom they found in double grief, inasmuch as they at the time also had been informed that the husband of Elizabeth, Mary's friend, had died. Is that Lazarus? Thus for 3 days Mary had been searching for her son in deep sorrow, and at the same time she felt a strong desire to go and see her friend. And at last, because I think Elizabeth was that the Elizabeth that she gave birth to John. I'm not really sure. That same Elizabeth? Okay. At last, on the 4th day, she found her son at Sophorim, according to the information given her by our brethren of the Brotherhood. And Nabin, the rabbi who had taken such deep interest in the child, was a secret member of the order, and had received instructions to protect him. Thus it came to pass that Mary, her husband, and his son returned to Jutha. There she found her friend Elizabeth in the great grief with her son, whose name was John, that John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin. Here the two youths were much together, and together they talked much about the sacred and the divine. Often, it's Old English, oft they wandered into the wilderness, the wildest parts of the mountains regions. They grew to be devoted friends, and their attachment ripened into intimate acquaintance with each other in their search for truth. And that doesn't mean that they were gaybos or anything like that. Okay, it's not saying that. Okay, they're just really, really close. Okay, they're just bonding, and they were familiar. They had familiar interest in the search for truth. John, who was the son of Zacharias, had already received the doctrines of the Nazarenes as regards reservedness, and he knew perfectly the scriptures and traditions, but comprehended now not the beautiful and the exalted in this world, nor the laws of nature as well as Jesus. He felt great dislike for the customs of the heathens, and despised and hated all tyrants. And the time had come when Jesus should be admitted into the first degree of the order. And in the valley of the order had a Brotherhood situated near the mountain where the castle of Masada stands, and the elders of the Brotherhood met them there and listened to the conversation. He taught them that wisdom and virtue are strengthened by fraternity, whereupon Jesus, in a transport of great joy, asked that he might be prepared at once for the admittance into the holy order. The example set by Jesus was followed by John, and the elder offered up a prayer which made Jesus a devotee of God. According to the rules of the order, the elder then said, "You shall be my brethren as soon as you, by the next new moon, shall see the glare of the fire on the mountain where the temple is built. and where you will then appear. He that is initiated into an order must at the same time dedicate his life to the service of others. Tell your father Joseph that the time has now come for him to fulfill the vow he made at Mount Cassius. The Esseer then departed, but when the child had returned to his home, Joseph was already remembered of his vow and of his duties to the brethren. Joseph then for the first time made known to Jesus that he was not his father. Together they kept secret the admission of Jesus into the Brotherhood for fear of the Gaulonites, probably the Gauls, the Romans attacked, fought, etc. Not really sure. At the appointed time they saw in the evening the fire signal ascend from the mountain, whereupon they immediately set forth to journey thither. Get up there, right? When they were arrived at the temple, they were met by the white-robed messengers sent by the Brotherhood. According to the rules of the order, Jesus was initiated into the Holy Order after following manner. Both were instructed and shown the way to enter into the assemblage, where the brethren were seated in 4 separated groups, according to their 4 degrees. Over the scene, the crescent shed its lurid glare. The 2 were placed before their brethren. There they made their vow, the brethren in their white robes placing their right hand upon their breast, with the left hanging down at the side. This was done as a token that none but the pure in heart shall see that which is sacred and holy. And the 2 vowed indifference to the treasures of earth, to worldly power and name, and by the brotherly kiss they vowed obedience and secrecy. And this is not gay or anything like that, as Shaka Amos said of the Hebrew Israelites. They kiss each other on the lips, because Captain Tazaria messed up, right? Because he just lost a friend or something like that. And then Shaka Amos goes, "Oh, you Hebrew Israelites kiss each other on the lips," and he's running around the couch laughing for about half an hour, something like that. They kiss each other, you homos and all this sort of stuff. It's nothing to do with it. It's like a sacred kiss, right? It's like Italians, they kiss each other on the cheek. Yeah, they say buongiorno or whatever, and they kiss. You see in those old movies, mafia movies, all that sort of stuff. Okay, it's like that. Yeah? And in obedience to the custom, when these 2 had made their vow, they were conducted into the lonely cabin where for 3 days and nights they were subject to self-examination and trial. In the evening of the 3rd day they were again brought before the assembled brethren to answer the questions put to them and then to pray. Having received a brotherly kiss, it's a greeting kiss, right? They were clothed in white robes. It's not a kiss on the lips and tongue and all that sort of stuff. Emblems of sacred purity and the trowel, emblematic of the labours of the Brotherhood, was put into their hands. Having sung the sacred hymns and partaken of the feast of love by themselves. Okay, it's love for all their brothers, right? It's not a feast of love like love making or anything like that. There's no Spartan boy loving here or anything like that. According to the custom of our order, none of the brethren participating, they were dismissed. After this they were instructed concerning the trials and the disciplines through which they must pass, living in the loneliness of solitude, separate from the world of mankind for the period of 1 year, at a point near the elder of the order from whom they should receive instructions fitting them for advancement in the higher degrees of the order. Both grew rapidly in divine knowledge. Jesus was frank and hearty of disposition, but John showed himself in stern seriousness and solitude. He was hardcore. When the years of trial and self-examination was past, they were again under the new moon, admitted into the order, this time as royal members, and initiated into the higher science. When they had given a full account of their conduct during the preceding year, and acted in obedience to all the rules of the order, they performed the ceremonies of singing and prayer and partaking of the feast of love. They were conducted to the secret chamber of worship, and then they were instructed and admonished to search the scriptures. Inasmuch as the rules of the order permit the admitted member either to remain with the Brotherhood in secret labour and fellowship, or go out into the world to teach or heal, according to his election, so Jesus chose to go forth teaching, while John chose to become a therapeutic or elder. Jesus felt himself called by the Spirit of God, and longed to preach the doctrines of the order to the people. Thus it came to pass that John returned to Judea to live in solitude in the wilderness. and Jesus returned to Nazareth. Here he proved gloriously his virtue and fulfilled his vow to the order. His friend Lazarus had a sister Mary who loved Jesus, and he in his heart returned her love. But according to the rules of the order, an Esseer is not allowed to take unto himself a wife after his own desire, lest the sacred work be thereby retarded. And so it was that Jesus overcame his love for this woman by his dutiful devotion to unselfish service of the Brotherhood. But the struggle was hard, and at the hour of their parting, both Jesus and Mary wept bitterly. This guy who wrote this letter states he informed all of these things, that they should indeed know that Jesus was their brother and belonged to the Holy Order. Thus all doubts and uncertainties on this matter must be ended. Jesus, our brother, or their brother, willingly suffered death that he might thereby glorify the doctrines of the order. And the greatest reward of their virtue is that they may, in like manner, be allowed to sacrifice themselves for it. Go to martyrdom, right? And it was heard the accounts which the Jews and his disciples had given concerning him, that they have seen him in the mountains and on the road after they believed him to be dead and resurrected. Right? The divine providence has given us a minute knowledge of these events that is hidden from the people, and it is our duty to inform you of the facts and reply to your questions relative thereto. And there's plenty more here. You know, there are many pious and excellent men who have recorded and remembered the life and death of Jesus, but have them only from rumours, augmented and corrupted by superstition, and from reverence and piety they believe what they hear of a beloved Master. It was even so with those chosen from among the people who were called disciples of Jesus. Most of them have heard the story of his life and death only through tradition, as it has been told from man to man, although there were others who were present, but these have given no information concerning these important events. In secrecy, this person would then inform all of what he and the Brotherhood in Jerusalem have seen and witnessed, and they remind a person in the Brotherhood that an Esseer or an Essene never permits anything to pass his lips save the strictest truth, so he's not to be found lying. Every man who has the gift of speech should magnify God and give manifestation of him, even as God has given unto him a tongue in his mouth. We might indeed have saved, he says, they might have indeed saved their beloved brother from the vengeance of his enemies, if everything had not come to pass so quickly, and if their laws had not prohibited them from interfering in public matters. Nevertheless, they would have saved him in secret, as he fulfilled his divine mission in the sight of all of the universe and the Brotherhood. Right? Indeed, that a man die for his faith does not increase the glory of God, but that he, full of devotion and divine confidence, suffered himself to be subjected to martyrdom for his faith, and this resolution, firmly fixed in mind, constitutes the fulfilment of a work in sight of the world. Therefore, pay good heed or attention to what this guy now tells you. Just took it to all the brethren, right? Or whoever's reading this letter, that you may judge for yourselves of the rumours that have reached you hence and from Rome. Here is the large vacant place in the document, caused by the destroying influence of time, the deciphering of which is not possible from the still existing remains.